When you're ruling up your calligraphy, you need to work out the X height, and that means the height that your letters are going to be between the top line and the bottom line. This is worked out with nib widths, which means the number of times you're going to mark the width of your nib. This is quite a large nib, larger than you'll use for the certificate. I'm using it here to make it easier for you to see. So I've marked 3 nib widths of this pen, and I may do 4 or even 5. It's important to join them corner to corner and to make the strokes as straight as you can so that you're measuring the number of nib widths that you need. It's very easy, especially with a very small nib, to accidentally leave gaps in between, and if that happens your X height will be too large. Or again with a small nib, it's easy by accident to overlap the nib widths, and then your X height will be too small. It's also easy to slope them upwards by mistake, and again that might make your X height too large. So in order to be as accurate as possible, you might like to have 2 goes and check they're the same. So here I've done this with a number 1.5 nib, which is the nib that you would need to use for your certificate. And I've ruled 4 nib widths, which you may use for some scripts. It may be more or less than 4, depending on the script you've chosen. I've marked in the top line here, and then I've taken a little tab of paper and I've marked that on the tab of paper. I've repeated it here and I've just checked that it's the same, so I can be confident now that having had 2 goes, they've come out the same. If they weren't quite the same, I would probably do a 3rd one, just to be sure. You can then use this that you've put on the tab of paper to rule up your good sheet of paper. So what I'm going to do now is establish where my top line is going to go. This is just a practice sheet, and so I've marked it the width of a ruler here. I've then taken my tab of paper, which I've actually marked with 1.5 nib, 4 nib widths, because I might end up with a few of these tabs of paper and I don't want to get muddled up. I've marked 1 X height, which is the 4 nib widths, and then I've worked out 2 of those, and I've just put a little G here for gap. 2 X heights to make my gap is what I want for this particular script, but you may find you want your gap to be bigger or smaller than that, and this is just an example. I've then gone down and I've marked another X height and another gap and another X height and another gap, so I'm going to put X and G. This is just for practice, all the way down until I get to the bottom. Now, when I want to transfer these markings to the other side of the paper, which I need to do to make sure my lines are parallel, I'm actually going to take my markings off the left-hand side, so I'm going to mark them all in again onto my tab of paper like this, as accurately as I can, and then I'm going to move the tab of paper over to the right-hand side of my sheet, and I'm going to mark them in again from there all the way down. And I can then take my ruler and, using a fairly light line, I can join them up going all the way down. It's quite important to be very fussy. I'm doing this on a slope, but if you do it on a flat table, then you won't have that risk of the ruler slipping downwards. And you go all the way down until you've got your sheet ruled up.